Here we are now, gathered in Boulder County, Colorado. What comes to mind when you envision this land? What kind of secrets does it want to reveal? What are the stories this soil holds? If we put our ears towards the earth, can we hear the voices of the slaughtered, the relocated, the oppressed? What spirits have nurtured this land? Who are the lives that have been overlooked? Boulder's history is full of complexity and pain. Much of it washed out by generations of settlers, masking the truth below painted lies. Here we are, now, where history meets the present, where we must decide how we want to carry on. Follow us as we look deeper within, into the uncomfortable darkness that shrouds this land, to find the stories that were here before and follow their guidance into a brighter tomorrow. Who were these people? How is this land connected to them? We met with different members of various communities to discuss the past, present, and the future of the land and the people that reside on it. We met with Andrea, the founder of Harvest of All First Nations, a non-profit, indigenous-led organization aimed at healing societies through the lens of regenerative ecofeminism, focusing on food justice, land reclamation, and medicinal plant care.
My name is Andrea Yoloteotl. The people are from the Aztec, Chichimeca, and Black people. My people used to travel really far between north and south and used to make relations with several tribes, and themselves used to be colonizers as well of other smaller tribes to have them become part of our own tribe. That's why we grew into become the Mexica people. However, we used to travel all the way here, and how we know that is based not only on, story or anthropological knowledge that is now researched, but it's also based on oral stories and based on what we know that the language used to be here. Our language. A proof of that is through the Ute people that have a knowledge that my people used to be here before. Also some of the original tribes that now they are named here as the stewards of the land, like the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Shoshone, and the Ute. Between the Ute and the Aztec people, they exchange so much information, and so many items too, food and harvest, perhaps, uh, clothing and other knowledge, even language, where the Uto Azteca language came about. And it's an emergence between the Ute language and the Aztec language. Also, I just had contact with some of the Shoshone folks, and they always have told me, you are our sister tribe. Your people used to come here to our lands and exchange and share with us. So, for us, in general, adaptation hasn't been as challenging as opposed to other native nations where they have struggled with a lot of generational trauma and with a lot of generational desperation due to the fortified land relocation.
Ja, ishik e doshadane, she e Reshawn Edison dashajane. Ki ani nishle, tachini bashish chin, chini dashache. Aro kinslechini dashinale. Akot ego has tin nishle. Hello, my relatives, greetings each and every one of you that call yourselves a human being on this motherly earth. My name is Reshawn Edison, and I come from the Four Corners region of the United States of America, contemporary United States. And I come from a small community called Steamboat in Arizona, in central Arizona. And I come from the Diné people, Navajo people. And in my introduction there, I introduced myself in my language, in my ancestral language, in our ancient language. And I greeted each and every one of you, my relatives and stuff like that. But I want to go over my clans, because in my introduction I go over my clans, and this is how I connect to the land, the spirits, and all the holy people around me. So my first clan is Kinya'ani, which means towering house. My second clan is my paternal clan from my dad's side, Kachitni, which roughly translates to the red streak people running into the water. My maternal grandparents' clans are Todichitni, which is bitter water. And my paternal grandparents' clans are Kintlachini, which means red house. And I'm coming to you today from the University of Denver. I graduated here with a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and Critical Race and Ethnic Studies. I'm a visitor of this land, and I graduated here in the summer of 2022 as an Indigenous scholar. One of five Indigenous people to cross the stage, where our population rate at this institution is less than 1%. A lot of our history as Indigenous people were not written by Indigenous people. Our story and our stories and our collective history has been largely written by colonizers. And the stories of our land back home is very much overlapped with a lot of Indigenous societies here in contemporary North America, Turtle Island. And when we think about that, there's a lot of diversity in the way that we interpret and embody our traditional story. Denver was once a very big trading route. It was a place where many tribal nations all across Turtle Island came up and down, side to side, and Denver was a hot spot. This community that we call Denver right now. And I attended this institution, which is now called the University of Denver, DU. And the history of this institution in particular is very daunting. It's very awful. It's very bloody. And to think about it, there was a lot of native people that called this place home, and that created a connection to this land right here. So at the university level here in Denver, specifically at the University of Denver, there's a very awful history. In 1864, our governor in Colorado, his name was John Evans. And during that time, Denver area was a trade route. Denver was a gold rush town during the gold rush. And in 1864, the village comprised of Cheyenne, Arapaho people, around 2 hours east of this institution. And that there was over 230 people, mostly women, children, and elders. During that time, the governor of Colorado said all United States citizens of Colorado has the ability to massacre merciless Indian savages. Now you think about merciless Indian savages, what does that really mean? You know, during that time, a lot of our native relatives were running away from the U.S. Army. They were retreating. They were trying to be at a safe space around this area. So when you think about merciless Indian savages, I truly think it was a term, an excuse to kill Native people. It was an excuse to destroy everyone in their path who was in the way of the gold rush era, especially in the Boulder County. Boulder was a very beautiful space. It was a very beautiful space where a lot of people would come, pray, worship, hunt. But going back to this year of 1864, the governor of John Evans gave the authority to about 500 U.S. soldiers to march down to this place called Sand Creek. And they did a surprise attack in the wee hours of the morning of this village I was talking about, Cheyenne, mostly Cheyenne and Arapaho people, where over 230 Native people were slaughtered. Their body parts were paraded down Colfax Avenue, Denver, Colorado. That same fall, the University of Denver was established. This institution prides itself on its founding, despite its genocidal acts. There's a church in the middle of this university that's dedicated to John Evans. It's Evans Memorial Chapel. And as a Native student, I had to walk past that church every day to class. And I had to personally reckon with the foundation of this institution, the foundation of Native people being slaughtered.
My family was not forced to go to the reservation or to relocate in Wyoming, or to the reservations with the Ute or the Northern Ute or the Shoshone people or the Cheyenne or the Dene, the Navajo. 1836 was my grandfather, was the last enrollment in the Ute Nation. Not too long after that, the settlers had the right to kill Indigenous people. They were given money to kill Indigenous people. So because of that law that was passed, or that act, my family stopped registering. My family went into hiding. There was a majority of Indigenous communities that were in rival because they were forced to betray one another for their own survival and their own needs.
Okay, well, my name is Felicia Alvarez, and I am a tribal member of the Eastern Shoshone Nation from Fort Washakie, Wyoming. I am also a Shoshone Bannock from Idaho, my grandfather's side. And my relationship to the land here is really, my people are a part of the land. We have direct relations, what we call our sister nation, the Ute Nation. So they basically were in this is their homeland. They originated here. I believe they had 7 bands of Utes throughout the state of Colorado at one time, Boulder being a part of that. So we're related to the Ute Nation through our language, our dialect, what they call the Uto-Aztecan linguistic languages, tribes. So that's how we're related. We are related to the Ute nations. At that time, there was no distinguishment of Ute, Mountain Ute, or Southern Ute. They had actually had their Ute names. To me, Boulder is kind of like my home in a lot of ways, basically because I grew up here. I have that connection, but also because of our connections of the past, where my Shoshone people, our Eastern Shoshone people, at that time, they weren't Eastern Shoshone. They were known as the Tukadiga eaters, what they call the sheep eaters. Our people used to migrate down to that northern part of Colorado in the mountains. And we used to trade a lot with the Ute nations, which we would join up with them in Fort Bridger, what is known as Fort Bridger, Wyoming. But that was always a meeting space for our people, for get-togethers and trading. And I believe at one time the Utes had brought the horses to my people through that way. So we're connected in that way. So, and through our treaty as well. Our first treaty, our 1863 Fort Bridger Treaty, we had that north end of Colorado and that northwest corner a part of our treaty at one time in 1863. So that is another reason why we are connected. And really, our people go for thousands of years where we are at in Wyoming and what they call now Wind River Reservation, which to us was always Warm Valley. Those were our summer homes where our people live now. And we would migrate down as far all the way into Colorado just to hunt, whether it been hunting, whether it been trading, maybe there was conjoining of nations at one time. That's basically how my people are connected to Colorado.
My name is Ava Hamilton. I am a Arapaho. I live here in Boulder. I came here to go to school at the university in 1970, and I've lived here since. I'm very active in the community and consider myself to be a part of this community as well as where I grew up in Wyoming, at Arapaho, Wyoming. I am an independent documentary filmmaker, a historian, and involved in community. Indigenous people, all indigenous peoples have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We have a long history here, and I've seen and read about a study that from coastal university like Berkeley or UCLA, somebody major, and they studied a small selection of tribes, maybe about 17 from the Bering Strait on down the coast there. And what they found was that we are more related to each other than to anybody else on the planet. That we, in fact, are not related, do not come from the Chinese, the Koreans, or nor the Mongolians. That we're pretty much from here, which is what our people have always said. So we are at home. We are the only people in the United States who didn't come from somewhere else. We are indigenous people at home. We were here, but we were not recognized as humans because we were not Christian. And so, according to that, there was nobody here. There was no people here, and it was all wild. They had to settle it, and that kind of mentality is still going on. Pretty much said, that all of these Christian nations could lay claim to indigenous lands and and enslave the people and make the land useful. And that's pretty much what still is going on today. They separated us from when they came here, because of their ways, they were able to separate us and to commit acts of genocide. And we're still recovering in many ways from that.
When we talk about this concept of genocide, I think as a society, as a student, and as a leader, as a mentor, we tend to overlook what genocide actually is. They frame this worldview as it's in the past. It's happened, it's gone, it's passed by, there's no more. But that's very indefinitely far from the truth.
You know, the enforcement of land relocation has been for sure one of the biggest impacts that has created on Indigenous communities with generational trauma. When you take away everything that you know on how you are used to survive, it's gonna create trauma. Us Indigenous people, we believe that we have a bond, not only with us people, but with the land by itself. And when we are being forcibly removed from those areas that we have created a bond, that we perhaps have created, ceremonial spaces, that we have honored ceremonial or sacred spaces in a certain way, or that we have, grown food in a certain way, when that has been removed forcibly, then that creates trauma. And when you are forced to be moved into an area, especially like the indigenous reservations, where the soil depletion has occurred, or the soil is not really prompt to grow appropriate food that we are in relation to be grown, like the Three Sisters, the corn, the beans, the squash, and that we no longer can eat that because we don't have, or we don't know the climate there anymore. There's going to be a lot of genocide that's happening there. There's going to be a lot of a lack of sense of place, and that's going to push our people to run into drugs and alcohol, or into try to find their own identity because of the trauma that has occurred by the land restoration, and also by all the forced adaptation to colonization through boarding schools, and by telling people, who they supposed to be, and losing their identity fully, despite that the stories of their elders or their grandfathers and their people have been told to them. That creates like really a lot of confusion, because it creates a crash on identity, creating a lot of confusion, and for people to be forced to get into addictions and other things, trying to find themselves when they need to get back to the land to re-encounter themselves again.
When us as Indigenous scholars talk about genocide in the modern era, we see it through the forms of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, violence, gang affiliation, and health. We don't understand that it's a modern form of cultural erasure and genocide. The alcoholism on Indigenous nations are at an unprecedented level.
I know with my family, there has been no talk about who we are or what we are, and that tells me there, because there was genocide, that my family was forced to pretend that they were something that they were not, and which meant also not to talk about their history. Because we were relocated and forced to pretend we were something that we were not, The one thing that my family has had for 5 generations that I can count and go back is alcohol. There has been huge drug use and alcoholism, sexual abuse, domestic violence, and rape. I'm the first person in my family to get sober, to start questioning who we are, where do we come from, why is there such a huge mystery, where are our stories, like who are we as people?
So nowadays, our people are diagnosed with ADHD, depression, anxiety, severe anxiety, and things like that. And we don't know how to cope with it. We don't know how to find help. And I think a large part of that is because we have lost connection to Creator. We have lost a sense of being with our ancestors and our traditional knowledge. So when we can tap into that in that light, we'll heal ourselves and we can find that healing.
As far as the traumas from the past, it's carried on through generation to get generation. It shows through the alcohol abuse, it shows through drug abuse. I mean, and with the fentanyl use and the meth use, and I went down that road myself at an early age, and I was smart enough to stop that in my early 20s, and I wised up, and not everybody does that. So I've seen a lot of alcoholism on the reservation, through my family, and just that trauma, I think that nobody ever talks about. And I don't think people understand what people go through when they're doing these things. It's just a way of hiding pain. In addiction, that was never a part of who we were, and it was not how we grew up, or it wasn't how our people lived. We didn't live that way with all these abuses, and I think it's really affected our people as a whole.
Where you encompass in your hands, in your body, in your breath, every beautiful thing that has happened to your ancestors. Every beautiful thing, every laugh, every heartfelt emotion, we feel it the same way, but a little different from our ancestor, our grandma, 16,000 years ago. We feel her love right there. At the same time, that's not all we feel. We feel all the trauma, all the negative thoughts in our lives. It's cultivated, it's brought up. It's like a snowball. It starts off small and it goes down a hill and it gets bigger. Of trauma. So at the same time, you encompass all the traumas of your grandpas and grandmas way back in time. When you can keep those teachings, the song and the prayer of your grandmas and your grandpas that were passed down from generation to generation, it has the ability to tap into your blood on a cellular level, and it can heal you like that. It can uncover that laugh your grandma had millions of years ago, thousands of years ago. And what indigenous people talk about is genocide through alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence, suicide. All these things that has happened to us, it's a continuation across time. There's a term that we call settler colonialism. It's a process. It's not a single event like our history books talk about. It's not a single event. It's a process. It's a process in which that keeps the elite in power and the subordinated dominated. And it's those spirits, my grandparents, they talk about it as spirits. The spirit of this alcohol, the spirit of these drugs, the spirit of this thing called hate, violence, is very prevalent in our society today. And it's something that was introduced to us by colonization. It's something that's been cultivated through these couple of generations that this country has been here, and the founding of this nation.
because we didn't grow up with our tradition and our culture, I grew up in the Western culture. And I was taught that Indians were bad people. I was taught that the cowboys were the good people. And I had this huge battle of always being in two different communities, but not feeling accepted. Why are there so many secrets? Why are there so many hidden secrets? The history of my family has been eliminated. I mean, completely wiped out. And I grew up with this feeling so confused. Who am I? Why do I feel like I don't belong in this space, especially being here in my own body and being in my own place in my home, being in my own place in the schools? Like, I felt displaced and I didn't belong at all for a long time. And it was very eerie for me. And it was like I needed to be told who I was, but no person could give me an answer. No living person anyway. I did what most people do when you have a lot of pain and a lot of trauma. I turned to drugs. And I was running to something, like running to something to ask for help, but not knowing I needed help, just running away from what was taking place here and feeling a lot of pain in my body. Felt a lot of pain in my body.
I feel that the non-information of our nations is a part of that trauma as well. It's like the government wanted to just totally erase who we were and not be truthful. I mean, our school system is assimilation for everybody, not just for us. It's like you grow up one way and you listen to one way, so eventually we're all going to grow up to be the same. You know, we're going to be rah-rah America, and we're all going to be speaking English, and that's a part of that trauma.
All these things that has been imposed to us in order to destroy us, to erase us off the face of this earth. All the disease, all the war, all the trauma that's happened to our people that was brought overseas from a foreign entity. No matter how much evil there is in the world during that time, you would say, to now, no matter how much evil, how much darkness, how much shadow there is here, there's always going to be a little speck of light. When you think about education, and we look at indigenous scholars today, there's a lot of beautiful work that's being done. We are rewriting our history through a lens of an indigenous perspective. So we may think about, why would I study anthropology in the first place if it's so awful? Well, that's just the thing. If no one else is going to study it, then I should study it. If no one else is going to do the work, then I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to do the ethnographic data. I'm going to conduct these projects in a way that's going to shed light upon my communities. So like my grandpa said, in the darkest of times there's going to be a little bit of light. But even in the beautiful, shiniest, awesome things on this earth, there's going to be a little bit of darkness. And that's what we call natural law. That there is no good and evil. There's just being.
Things were tough for our people, but you know what? We're just as tough. We can figure it out, and we've figured it most of that out, how to continue to have our cultures, practice our cultures, and be together. We're not just talking about our culture, we're living it. We're perpetuating it, and I like that. I like our peoples.
Boulder is weird to me. It's a strange environment of wanting to honor natives, but really has no understanding of who we really are. Boulder has many places named in Ute language, but they do not honor the Ute Nation. Although I'm sure the intentions are good in hosting Native events, the control over these events is still non-Native. To me, if you want to get to know the community, then invite the Native community to the table and work to have a better understanding. As the treaties of Fort Laramie were negotiated, the Treaty of Fort Bridger would soon follow, 1863 and 1868. In 1878, the U.S. government took the treaty lands and placed the Northern Arapaho on their lands. This is now called the Wind River Reservation. When the Northern Arapaho were placed on Fort Bridger Treaty lands, this caused turmoils for many, many years to come. Chief Washakie, the Shoshone chief, was against this placement, for the Northern Arapaho were an enemy tribe against the Shoshone peoples. For years, the Arapaho would team up with the Sioux nations and Cheyenne nations and overtake Shoshone's hunting lands, as a surge of white military were pushing the Plain tribes west, until the forced negotiations of Fort Laramie Treaty and Fort Bridger treaties. Today, the two tribal nations are still at odds with one another. While some Shoshone feel their rights are being violated as the two tribal nations are slowly merging. Felicia says that yes, they are Native nations, but one tribal nation is struggling to keep their Shoshone language, culture, and history alive, while the new generation is wanting to merge and change. Felicia believes that it is time to start being united as Native communities and try to be able to move as one nation so we can be able to make a difference. So then, particularly in Boulder, a Native commission can help in understanding true historical land acknowledgement. This commission can help in advising in events, history, appropriations, and understanding. They can be the liaison between Boulder and the Native community.
Boulder has a lot of names, streets, parks, and it's really unusual to me. I used to go back to Boulder back in the days, when I was younger, and it was kind of more hippie-ish back then. And now it's like a homogenized version of hippiness when it's not. I don't know. It just seems weird that they have that connection with the Ute tribes, but I don't see them involving the Ute tribes. I know I've heard that the Arapaho were there at one time. And I heard, a lot of things, but I don't know that history between the Arapaho and Boulder. I did know that my people roamed this area at one time. And, Boulder connects, if you go to Boulder and then you go up into Lyons and you go up into Estes Park, that was part of that Ute Trail long ago. If you've ever been to the top of Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park, that is the old Ute road travel there. Yes, I'm for a united nation, but at the same time, I have to stay true to my Shoshone people. People may call me a staunch Shoshone supporter, but I don't see myself in that way. I stand for my elders and I stand for my people in our treaty and our sovereignty. Those are the things I stand for. And I stand for my family too. So I like unity, like I said, but it is my responsibility as a Shoshone woman, enrolled Eastern Shoshone woman, to stand for our people and stand for our treaty. As our elders always told us, our treaty is the foundation of our people, and it's up to us to protect that. Because with that treaty, it protects our lands, it protects our resources, it gives us our sovereign right to be who we are, without the government trying to interfere. And the good part about now is that a lot of our younger generation have gone to college, they're becoming travel lawyers, they're stepping up to be able to protect us in the law system, and that's really important. I think people forget that, and it's just our responsibility to always be standing on that treaty. The hard part about Wind River is that, you know, the Arapaho aren't on our treaty. So our treaty is made with the Shoshone Bannocks over in Idaho. So when they were placed on our lands, they don't have treaty rights there. You know, they signed the Fort Laramie Treaty, which is a whole nother landmass. But that treaty is not good in our treaty land. So, you know, that's the difference. And, you know, they have their sovereign rights through our treaty. So in a lot of sense, they have to protect it too, because they're living on our treaty land. So it's not because, you know, we're Shoshone or, you know, we don't like Arapaho. I don't see it that way. I love my Arapaho brothers and sisters, you know, but at the same time, I got to protect that treaty. And that's what our responsibility is. And I just hope that someday that they see that, you know, yes, we are on Shoshone lands, and we are living on their treaty lands, but those treaty lands are what protecting us as Arapahoes too. So I don't know if people see it that way. So, you know, their sovereignty is protected through our treaty. I can't speak for my entire nation. I speak for what I see and what I know, what I have witnessed myself, my own beliefs, all the people that I work with up there on the res, and, you know, I call them my brothers and sisters, and we're all, you know, doing our best to protect what's left. And I'm a part of that. I'm just a small portion of that. There's a lot of individuals up there that are doing that every single day.
I think one of the really obvious concerns is homelessness and affordability of housing, of climate change. We can't hardly see the mountains. I know some of it is forest fire smoke coming from other places, but it's really sad to know that all of this traffic, the killer of and the start of the supporter of climate change is the exhaust that comes out of cars. And there's more every day in Boulder. So all of this economy is killing life as we know it. And it's not going to last. It can't last forever. We have to help to make a change. And I think there's more of us who have that concern. If we, you know, figure it out, it's not about figuring out more affordable housing or housing even, though that's a really, I'm so sad that there are people who do not have a place to call home, who don't have a safe place, and they resort to begging and living in tents in this really tough weather that we can get. And I want them all to be safe and warm. I want everybody on the planet to be safe and warm.
An ongoing environmental issue, it's definitely the lack of access to public housing, the lack of access to affordable housing, which it continues to um, promote, as we said before, the type of populations that occupies Boulder. In addition to that, one of the biggest issues that Native Americans here in Boulder County at least faces is the lack of access to land to perform all types of ceremonies. Yes, the county has tried to honor some agreements and has tried to give some pieces of land to some indigenous communities. However, it's all under their own restrictions. Even though that they say that they gave that land back, all the permits that are necessary for us to do and perform everything that we would like to do are not given fully. And the government continues to control how we manage the land, despite that it's said that this was given to Native Americans to perform ceremonies.
Well, we don't have land. We don't have the land to be able to create community and have security and reciprocity for the ceremonies that our community holds, our communities do, so that we can bring reciprocity to all of the bloodshed that's been here, to the land and to the people. The land is holding that vibration. And that's part of our work. Is we are here to learn, and we're here to learn how to bring balance to oneness with the harmonic resonance. We have to borrow people's lands. We have to ask people if we can use their land. And we come from these lands. We appreciate being able to use or borrow people's land, but we come from these lands. My ancestors cared for these lands. My ancestors cared for these lands, and we don't have any land to continue to care and carry on the traditions of our great, great, great ancestors who walk these lands.
I've seen a lot of my friends who had jobs move out of Boulder, so it's changing community. It's changing how the relationship we have to the larger number of peoples and the people who are moving in with lots of money. I don't think they're involved as much as the old community. This is a really good place to be. There are many caring people here, and I know it's a university town. People come here to go to school and then they move on, but there is a living community here, and that's the most important thing I've seen is housing, affordable housing.
So for us, it is environmental issue because it is prohibiting us to continue performing our cultural way of living, and is prohibiting us to continue being in relation with everything else that is giving us life and to honor our ancestors through ceremony. So we are seeking for further equity in many aspects, economical, environmental, through food justice as well, and through land back movements.
reparations are needed. Forgiveness is needed. You know, people haven't acknowledged that the indigenous people were murdered for these lands. Those conversations need to be talked about. Yeah, if we had our own space to be able to do the work that we're doing, then we can continue to carry on the traditions and cultures of our ancestors, and it would be space that would be untouched, and it would be left exactly the way that it's supposed to be. If we just leave the land as it is, the grass will always grow back as long as we don't take too much. The harvest will always come back as long as we don't take too much. But that's one of the responsibilities that we have, is to take care of the land and to make sure that the land is able to give our next 7 generations of what we've had, also for the 7 future generations. That is our responsibility, because we are just borrowing the land. We are only here temporarily. We're also here to learn to work together in our communities and support each other. I wish someone would donate land to the communities that are out here doing the work. Why not gather community together, get some money and resources, and buy land for the indigenous peoples here? That's what I would feel would help with reparations. Or donate, and then we would go get the land, you know, because that's really what we need.
So the Boulder community, how we know it to be, it is very privileged. And even though that there's a lot of movements right now that are helping to awaken their whiteness, or, you know, their white supremacy concepts to be dismantled, there's so much work to do, because Boulder community, it's always consistently changing from outside of other states. So I think that it's the responsibility of the government agencies and bigger institutions like, you know, CU Boulder, or, you know, Boulder Housing Partners, or other organizations that are in lead of big programs here in Boulder, to change the ways and formats of governance in order for them to really start dismantling white supremacy systems, and for them to create a reparational processes while not appropriating our ways of living, and while also respecting what we are and represent as indigenous people, so we can collaborate together to really care for the land and to have this land to be restored. I think that one of the biggest things is for the people to know the story of Boulder, and really to get to become aware of what the importance of the massacres that took place here are still not a forgotten event, but very vivid and lived by indigenous people.
It hurts my heart now that I've been in a community that we always have to constantly be moving. There's a lot of lessons to learn in that, on adapting with things. But when we are bringing medicine to the land, and the land is bringing medicine to us, and we're bringing medicine to the community, we just want one place where we can just stay and be in community, and have that as our stability, have that as security. We deserve that. We deserve to be able to have a place where we can constantly go to anytime we want to sit in ceremony without feeling like we're disrupting or bothering anyone. But we're not in a position where we have a lot of money. We don't. But that's going to change. That's going to change.
I'm really active in the world of climate change and global warming, which is about the future of life. I see these things that really bring home the danger of where we are today with how we live, with the use of fossil fuels and driving so many cars, population increase. And I've heard two things that were really strange, but that's how people are. It's like this one woman said, why do we need all this farmland? We've got enough grocery stores, and so that's kind of like the mentality of people not seeing the connectedness of all life. All life is connected. We're part of the cycle of life. Humans aren't the most important thing. We're just part of it. And then the other point is that there are no jobs on a dead planet. So it's not about the economy. It's not about more building, bringing more people in, more shoppers, people to use all of these new businesses. It's not about that. It's about life. It's about all life. And so I'm working with all the people, historians, activists, scientists, filmmakers, young people, very young people in high school who see the danger that we're in, that we are about to, that Mother Earth is in extreme danger. We're killing Mother Earth. I want to be part of the answer. What can we do in tomorrow, the next week, and the next year, now? Or what can we do to do things where we continue to have life on the planet, on this earth, on the place that gives us life, supports all life, that holds water, air, all the essential things that are needed for life, especially women. My Arapaho sister Christy told me that her grandfather told her there are two things essential for life, and one of them is water, and the other is women. So we need to take care, of all life, but those two things essential for life. So with all of the change and all of the history that all the genocide that has happened and continues to happen around the planet, we do have to be more like earthlings, just from the planet and not from the specific area. We have to take care of all life, all of us, no matter what kind of people we are, whether we're indigenous or not, whether we're from the United States or the Ukraine. We still have to think about and consider life, because what's going on over there is pretty dangerous, and it impacts all of us, even though it's on the other side of the planet. So all of us need to work together in order to protect the cycle of life, all of life. And right at this moment, more so than any other time in the planet's history, we're the most dangerous animal of every kind of being here, any kind of life. We are the most dangerous because we could end all life with our behavior and our choices. And it's really, truly not about the economy. And I love all of the people who are taking care of our health, like the farmers, the young farmers, and people who are teaching other people how to grow gardens and to recycle, to live not dependent on a world economy, but to take care of yourself and the land, the earth right here, right? A sustainable way of living. And but in the meantime, we don't all have access to a gardener to earth, especially with all these condos. How can they have a relationship to the earth, you know? So it's a big thing that we all humans, we all have to work together to make sure that we have a future, that the planet lives, that we do not disturb any living thing that comes from the earth, especially water, especially everything. So our existence, our very existence for all of humanity, not only Indigenous people, it lays in our own hands. It is a scary time for all humanity. It is a super scary time. And that's where I am. Sometimes I get so into thinking about it that I can't sleep. And then I feel really bad that I'm still part of that exhaust production, pollution, climate change that's gonna kill us. You know, it's there though. I mean, we can do it. We figured out how to do many things. Let's figure this out. People, when I talk about what we were talking about, the death of the earth and all life, they said, oh, if there are no more humans, the earth will recover. Of course, but I want us to be here. I want humanity to be a part of this cycle of life. We are right now, but like I said, we're the most dangerous animal on the planet, able to end all life. That's not a good power. It's not. And yeah, the earth probably would recover rapidly without us, because there would be no humanity to drive cars and fly planes and dig up the earth, disturb the earth. But I want us to be here. I want humanity. I want young people to enjoy the beauty of life.
My time as an Indigenous scholar has really allowed me to reflect on my place on this earth and my place in this contemporary society that we call the United States, like that. And how Indigenous people, how Indigenous sovereignty is continuing to navigate the structures set before us. Hence the term critical race, of how this thing that we call skin color really does bind us in positions where our mobility as people are constrained and restricted in that light.
I would want our younger generation to know that to not forget about your ancestors. Don't forget about the price they paid for us to be in that little piece of land that we're living on. Because at one time we were all over that land. My people were all stretched all the way into Idaho, through Yellowstone, through the Tetons, through Nevada, to California, and you know, we're related to the Aztec Nation. So all our people, we're like the north part of that came all the way up and almost into Canada. So I would like our younger generation to know the true history of our people. Not just my people, but of their own people, no matter which nation they come from. Try to see what the past really was. Don't just take it for the word of the history books. Try to talk to your elders. Listen to, you know, some of your leaders, or just, you know, learn about your tribal government. That's a big, so learn about your people, learn how your tribal governments run, learn about your ceremonies, and if you don't, try to learn some of your language. Don't let the language die. So not fluent in my language. My aunts are all fluent in their language. My mother was too. And I've learned through the years, you know, some of our language, but not enough, because I didn't grow up with it, and it's really hard to keep that language if you're not speaking it every day. So if you are there with your elders, take advantage of that. Learn from your elders, talk to them. Don't forget about them, because a lot of people forget about our elders. And
blessed, wherever we walk upon this motherly earth, we're always connected to Sanaglehi. It's Sanaglehi, the earth changing woman. Nehemana no San, the earth. This motherly earth mother. We call it like that. It's up to the younger generation, like me myself, to pick it up and teach it to our youth, to our students, to an indigenous way of knowing the world. Nevertheless, if you're different tribal nations, if you're mixed colors, you always have a connection to this earth, because your ancestors millions and millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, walked this earth the same way you did. And every trauma, every beautiful thing they witness is in your blood cells. So if you can tap into that any way that you know how, by prayer, by meditation, by song, by dance, it can work like that, and it can heal yourself like that.
When the spirits started to talk to me and I thought I was losing my mind, I decided that I was going to start listening. That, I heard a spirit tell me, do you want to live? And I was like, yes. Well, this is what you need to do. I said, okay, the land is talking to me. And at this time, my relationship with the land, I didn't have a relationship with the land. I didn't even have a relationship with my own body. I had no understanding of this. I said, you know what? I'm going to go home and start meditating, because there's something here that feels familiar, but I'm not sure what it is. Little by little, step by step, it led me to my indigenous communities, and it helped me with my sobriety. And I went to it every day because I felt the unconditional love. I felt this surrender. I felt this deep release of all the shame and guilt I had been holding on to. That's my introduction of being connected to the land, because it healed my body. It helped me know that sitting with the land and sitting in the meditations and receiving the medicine from the ancestors of the land is what healed me. So I may not have been raised with my tradition and culture, but what my ancestors come from, who my ancestors come from in their relationship with the land, called me back.
So I think it's very important to understand where you come from, and to try to connect in that way to your ancestral roots. Because nevertheless, wherever we are on this earth, we're connected to a Sanaglehi, Yolkai San, changing woman, Waisha woman. Nehemana no San, the earth, the motherly earth mother, like that.
I like being connected to my community and sharing our stories. I realize how important our stories are. They are the medicine that heals us. They are the medicine that gives us hope. They're the medicine that really helps the connection to our ancestors who are here with us, but not in the living form, because they're right here with us. They never leave us. There was a lot of struggles, and I had to go through all of that to be who I am today, so that I can help the people that the ancestors bring.
Our communities can rewrite our history and through a lens that's accessible, and that our community can understand it in a way that is going to empower and uplift themselves. How do we make our voice one? Is to bring a lot of people together through festivals, through powwows, through traditional ceremonies, through the sweat, through the prayer lodge, like that. We bring our people together and we exchange beautiful lifeway knowledges, right? Our communities need each other more than ever. The amount of indigenous people going into higher education is not nearly enough to make a really, really, really huge dramatic shift in the way our society operates. How do I make my professional life my personal life? And how do I make my professional and personal life in tune with Creator? How do I do that? That's something that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis. But because I know one word in my language, honjon, something good, something beautiful, yat, something good, it is good, like that. So if there's something to learn from me in my language right now, it's yat, which really translate to it's good. The white English language might translate it to hello, hi, hello. But in reality, that's not what it means. It means it is good. Yat, it is good. It is beautiful. It is prosperous. It is balanced. When you change our meaning of our words to a simple phrase like hello, you miss all that context and relationality of what that word actually means.
I remember when my ancestors came and spoke to me, and they told me that they were waiting for someone in the family to want to walk these ways back to from my ancestors' original tradition and culture, and that everything that I went through is because I carried my ancestors' pain, sorrow, and suffering. And I was in my drug addiction for 25 years, and I went through a lot of things that really taught me good lessons in my life. But I was able to come into a space and ask for healing. I carried that from my ancestors so that they could heal. That's why I did that, so that they could heal. And I know that they're here with me.
No matter where you are across this motherly earth, you're going to have a connection to your home. Because the same landmass you're sitting on is the same landmass way over there across the earth. We are visitors of the land. We do not own this parcel of land that may be translated in acres. We don't own it at all. This is everyone's land. By everyone, I'm not talking just about all the nationalities, what we call races. There's only one race, and it's the human race. By everyone, I mean the four-legged, the deers, the antelope, the elks, the sheep, the cattle, the two-legged, all the birds, owls, all the bugs, all the little things, to the microorganism in the water. This is our home, and this is where we belong. Our bodies, our physical form is going to return back to the earth. So in reality, motherly earth, Earth Mother owns us, and we are her children. So we're supposed to take care of it in that manner. This concept of 7 generations, way before you, every step you take on this motherly earth is going to affect them. Every breath you take on this motherly earth is going to affect your generations after you.
I can only share with you with what I've experienced, and that is to go sit with the land and start asking the land for help. Ask for healing. Ask for balance. Ask to be opened up, to be able to see things past your own limited beliefs. Go to the land, sit with the land, learn to be in silence, learn to be in stillness, learn to get off the technology and be with the land, and just sit with the land, speak to the land, thank the land for everything that you have. Thank the land for allowing you to be here. Thank the land for allowing you to have this body that you're walking in temporarily. Thank the Creator, or the Ahau is what we call in our Mayan traditions. Be thankful for what you have, and go have a conversation and start creating a relationship to where it's someplace that you go to be with respect and honor. Learn to move past yourself and do things by being with the land.